In the next few years, agents are most probably going to outnumber human beings on the internet. One person will have multiple agents working for them. Early stage startups, I believe, at least seed stage startups, are very reluctant to hire remotely unless within like a minute he responds like, "You want to hop on a call now?" Now?
Oh shit.
What's the difference between a startup and a small scale company? Like the single biggest organic distribution vehicle that we have to AgentMail is a company will probably die a very painful death. So the question is not, are you technical? The question is, how technical are you? People might take this wrong way, okay? Network
You
effect.
first heard it here. Hey guys, my name is Amjad. Thanks for dialing into the channel and the video. I'm here with my boy Binoy. So Binoy and I, we know each other since a couple of years now, and he's fresh off the boat from Vietnam, and we had a quick coffee and chat last weekend. And that quick coffee and chat turns out to be a 6 hours chat till the coffee shop closed down. And as boys, we talked about life, startup, AI, growth, and all that. And midway, I thought to myself, "Oh shit, this guy is like dropping literal gems." Like,
We both were, man. We both were. I think we're both doing very interesting work, and it's awesome, man. I feel like every time we talk to each other, we kind of come off of the tail end of the conversation smarter people, and that's awesome, right? Because we're both doing very interesting work, and it's nice to have that on record. So before we start, neither one of us are really experts at anything. We don't want to come off of as like gurus or
yeah, never.
coaches or whatever. It's just a chill conversation. I just think that we both do interesting work and in exciting spaces, right? And I think we know enough now to really talk about it publicly,
Exactly.
right?
Well, let's start with who you are, Binoy, and your progress so far, your journey so far, and how did you end up where you are right now?
Yeah. Well, it's been a very weird kind of journey because I think I finished school in 2020, 2019, whatever, at the peak of COVID. So from COVID to the economic crisis to all the shit that happened, it's been a crazy, weird, dystopian journey so far. It's been anything but traditional, right? And right now I'm in the founding team of AgentMail, which is a VC-backed startup. And what we do is we give email inboxes for agents. It's literally Gmail but for AI agents. That's in a nutshell what I do. So I think I've been working for or in some capacity with startups for the last 4 years. Yeah, so the work that I do is very interesting, man. It's category defining work because AI agents in the agentic economy is a super new thing, right? It's not been around for a decade, so everything that we do could be right, could be wrong. There's no playbook, right? The space that we're in. And essentially, we are kind of owning this category as well right now. The startup that I'm working with, like our startup, AgentMail, it's lit. So just to give a little bit of insight into what we do is we give agents an identity. The thesis is this, right? In the next few years, agents are most probably going to outnumber human beings on the internet, right? Because agents are going to be the next billion users on the internet, not human beings. One person will have multiple agents working for them. You might even actually, this might actually be true now, because if you use like Claude or ChatGPT or whatever and then have it do a web search, you technically do have an agent working for you. You don't even know it yet. So here's the problem. For an agent to really be useful, the agent needs to be an active participant in the internet, right? An agent needs to just be able to take action. Right now, the problem is agents are good at like researching or building the playbook, but when it comes to execution, right? For example, the agent can tell you what time the flight is, how to get to the airport, and what to do after that. But can the agent buy you the flight ticket or book an Uber to go to the airport and then map out your itinerary and book an Airbnb? That's what makes an agent useful. But for an agent to be able to do that, the agent should be able to just make use of the internet the same way you and I do. It needs to be able to sign up for an internet service, all right, make an account somewhere, make a payment, or that stuff, the basic stuff that you use the internet for. But you can't do that without an email address. The agent can't rely on the human's credentials forever. At that point, you just have an assistant. It's not autonomous. So for an agent to be a first-class user of the internet, it needs an identity, and the best way to do that is via email, and that's what we do. We've seen tremendous growth over the last few months, especially since OpenClaw was a thing, right? OpenClaw kind of it expedited the growth rate and adoption for agents on a crazy scale, and we've benefited from that a lot. So every day is an adventure, man. Something new happens, something crazy happens on Twitter. It's so intense. At the same time, it's a privilege to be working on a problem like this, right?
From the discussion that we had prior to this chat, you told me your employee number.
Yeah. I think I'm either one or two. Like I'm one of the first people the founders hired. We
Right.
have three founders, and like think they hired the founding engineer and then me around the same time.
Having worked at YC startups, I know how pro they are towards hiring in person,
Yeah,
right? How did you persuade them to hire
yeah,
you, a random dude in Sri Lanka, to
yeah,
work remotely with them
yeah, man.
for
I,
such a
I'll
critical
I'll
role?
tell you the whole story.
Yeah,
But here's the thing: people might take this wrong way. Okay, if you're watching this, don't feel like I'm trying to gatekeep. I'm not. Like you know this, right? Like all of my friends know this. I love it when like the entire community, Sri Lankan community, gets to kind of make it out of the local bubble and work with startups like this. I love it when that happens, but it's a little bit tough. The reason is, especially for a YC startup, I believe they're encouraged not to hire remote. You gotta have your first few
that's in the playbook.
that's the playbook, and that's for good reason too. If you're building something that's building a company, and it's not even a company yet, it's just an idea, the first few months or the first year or the first 2 years, it's very important. Everything is very brittle. Things could go wrong. So you want to have the first 10 people in your vicinity. You've got to work with them. So for that reason, early stage startups, I believe, at least seed stage startups, are very reluctant to hire remotely unless like if you're a designer or like a content writer or a paid media consultant, it's different. It's very easy, in fact. um, but for a critical core infra role, it's a bit difficult. And however, it's not impossible. There's plenty of people that does it. You do it, I do it. So it's not impossible. So I'll tell you the story. Um, I was working for this community called the MLOps community, which is a online community for AI and machine learning practitioners that blew up during COVID. So when COVID hit, it was like the beginning of the ChatGPT boom. So all the software engineers and the non-technical people, the tech adjacent people, they all they were all desperate to break into AI, but then they didn't have a place to go to really, what do you think about AI? What does he think about AI? Because at that point there were no AI experts because it was so new. So the MLOps community was formed as a Slack channel by Dimitrios Brinkman and Dan Baker. These two guys were in tech for a long time. They just made a Slack channel, and a couple hundred people joined. And then it turned out to be this global movement. As of today, I believe there's more than 100,000 people in this community, and they just got acquired or by the Linux Foundation. So yeah, so I was working for them, and it was life changing because I got to talk to developers and engineers from all over the world, right? From Australia, from India, from Amsterdam to Barcelona to States. And so I was talking to these people every single day, right? And I was kind of learning and experiencing firsthand, like where the industry is going, right? And how people are making use of AI. One interesting thing that I learned was adoption outside of San Francisco was criminally low. You would think that all, outside the tech centers, people are actually making good use of AI, but they're really not. I remember like last year, which was not that long ago, I was talking to a very good engineer at a great company about agents, and they were like, "Why are you guys pushing agents so much?" I was like, "What do you mean? Do you not live and breathe agents at this point?" They're not even like it. They think agents are radioactive, but this was like a year ago.
Right.
Things have changed now, and that was so surprising to me. And because Europe, they're always actually a little bit slow to adopt, but then what I understood was outside the tech epicenters, the adoption rate is very low. So for that reason, we wanted to do this project called the AI Agent World Tour. It was actually the best idea I ever had. It was actually a series of events and meetups and conferences around the world on AI agents. So we invited a bunch of startups, right? For example, we started from San Francisco. We went everywhere. Barcelona, sorry, yeah, I think so. Yeah, Barcelona, Amsterdam, right, Delhi. So we did these meetups everywhere, and we did two big conferences in San Francisco, right? They were big, and while I was looking for startups that I thought would be cool to invite to this, that's how I found AgentMail. I think I found them right after they finished YC, or maybe while they were doing YC, right? So YC, they do this post, right? They introduce the startups in the batch. I believe that's around the time they were finishing up, right? I thought they were, oh, cool. Sounds really cool, right? I haven't heard of anybody talking about agents having inboxes and emails. It's first time. And the founders, they looked very chill. So I don't know how I found their email. I mean, yeah. So I found their email, and then I emailed them saying, "Look, we're doing this big conference. If you guys want, I can give you a free booth. Let me know." And they said, "Yeah, let's do it." And that turned out to be the very first public appearance of AgentMail. That's the first time they spoke to users and people outside of YC.
And you facilitated it
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah, it was very cool. It was a very cool thing, right? And that's how I like got to know them, and I kept tabs on them because they were so interesting. And Adi, the founder, was very cool. He had a very active social person, so I liked what he was saying, you know. So and I was looking for a career, not a career change, but a job change around that time. It's tough. You know how that is. I think I may have applied to around, I can show you I kept track of everything that I applied to in my Notion. I applied to more than 360 jobs, right? Probably more because I started keeping track after I, like applied to like 20, 30 jobs with custom cover letters and all of these things. And I got like 4 replies back. One was AgentMail. The other was another YC startup. And I got Luma, Luma, right? I actually was very close to joining Luma. Very interesting company. But then AgentMail, they were kind of open to it. And then I found out that one of my friends that I met through MLOps was an investor, was an angel investor. And his name is Ben Epstein.
Shout out.
Shout out Ben Epstein, man. He's awesome. He has his own startup now called Grotto AI. I met him through my mentor, Adam. Shout out Adam, bro. That man changed my life. He made a decision to hire me for MLOps. He didn't even know me. Based off vibes, he hired me. And I love that guy, Adam Becker. He's working on a very interesting problem. Just Google head on for politics. Very interesting problem. It's worth diving into. So I told Ben, you probably know them. Do you want to put in a good word for me? And he did. And that probably meant a lot for the AgentMail team. And then funny story. So I DM'd the founder Adi on LinkedIn and was like, "Yo, I would love to work with you guys. You guys are doing awesome work." Very informal DM. When I was doing that, this was December, I was painting the house, okay? And within like a minute, he responds like, "You want to hop on a call now?" Now?
Oh, shit.
No prep. Okay. No prep whatsoever. And I was literally like, I could paint all over my body. I was like, and I didn't want to miss this opportunity as well.
And I guess since you were saying that you were painting the house, it must be the daytime here, so it must be the nighttime in SF, right?
Yeah. It was nighttime. It was around like it was past midnight for them for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the grind never stopped. So he and I was kind of nervous. I'm like, what do I do now? So I didn't want to miss this opportunity too,
Right.
because he knows that I'm online. If I don't take this opportunity, it's gonna look like I'm
now
scared.
or never, bro.
It's now or never. It's like, sure, let's do it. Then we hop on a call. Probably yapped a lot like I did now. So he liked me, and like I didn't try to.
Be someone else.
Yeah, man, I was very genuine. I told him exactly why I wanted to join. I told him, look, you guys are either gonna be like the next unicorn to come out of the email sector. Like, when's the last time an email company turned into a unicorn, right?
Right.
Either that or you're going to be acquired by a freaking Anthropic or something. That's what I said, right? And bro, like, I wanna be a part of this. I could unlock so much for you.
So you joined them as a generalist, a jack of all trades, and now you're at a very specialized role, driving their growth engine. So how did you make that move internally?
Okay, the short answer is, when I dived into AgentMail, I wanted to do anything and everything to make shit happen. I wanted to get things moving, and then I think it was a very natural progression. Most of the work that had to be done was growth related. Okay, so it was a very natural progression. So it ended up being the case where I was doing growth work. Yeah, so like being a generalist is awesome, right? People don't realize how clutch being a generalist is. People sometimes feel like because there's a lack of specialization there, it's not important. It's so important for an early stage startup, right? Because at an early stage, what's the difference between a startup and a small scale company, like a small business? Like, let's say you start like a pizza joint. Technically, is that a startup? No. The whole point of a startup is the metric, the compass, everything's growth focused, hyper growth. That's the difference between a small scale business and a startup, because everything a startup does is for growth, right? So when you're a generalist, you're going to be doing a lot of growth operations, and as a generalist, you have the opportunity to see where the gaps are and really expand your domain and work on everything: sales, marketing, content, or internal operations, technical stuff, right? Product stuff. It's awesome. So there's no other role that gives you the opportunity to really dip your feet into all of these things. And it's a privilege. And you also have the opportunity to easily become essential infrastructure for your company, to the point where if you're not there, the company is in trouble, right?
All right, Binoy. So the terms GTM, growth, and even traditional marketing are being thrown
Yeah.
around and used interchangeably also nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone's talking about it. Everyone's saying they're a GTM person, growth person. So, from your own words, from your experience, what is GTM, what is growth, and what is traditional marketing, and how do they differ, and where do they relate?
Okay. Well, I think there is a clear difference between growth and GTM. I think growth is more of the outcome. GTM is how you get there. GTM is the machine, basically, right? Um, again, like I think we touched on this previously, but like a startup is a startup because it's geared towards growth, right? So what does growth means? Let me put it into context. Like, for example, what's the retention look like? How many people are signing up, right? For example, this week 500 people signed up. Then the next week it should be 550 people. There should always be an uptick in growth, and same with retention, right? At the end of the day, the hockey sticks should come to a point where it doesn't meet the zero level. You know what I mean, right? Like in retention, but to answer your question in simple terms, growth is basically the outcome you should be looking at, and it could mean different things for different startups. It could mean hitting 100,000 in monthly revenue. That could be a good growth rate, right? It could be achieving 200,000 signups or 5% retention. All of these are correct answers. You should probably figure out what's the most important for you. What are the growth outcomes that would get you closest to product market fit? It's probably going to be retention. If you see 25 or 40% of everybody that's using your product retaining over time, that means you're very close to product market fit. And for a startup at in very early stages, product market fit is the most important thing. I feel like AgentMail is beyond this stage now. We're doing really well now, but in the very early stages, you should see what growth outcomes will get you closest to product market fit. And I think retention is probably the most important thing. If people use your product or service one time and they forget about it, it's not going to stick. You're going to die, right? You want to make sure people come back over time and use it daily or weekly. And if you sign up in January, and if you're still using AgentMail or whatever product you're using by December, that means you're sticky. That means you've retained. So retention, I think, is very important as a growth outcome. And also, how much of the market do you own now, right? Expansion. And again, it's really very hard to generalize what growth outcomes are. It could mean different things for different startups, but GTM essentially is different motions that you execute to get to those outcomes, like to those points. For example, there's several types of GTM motions, right? Product-led growth, developer-led growth, content-led growth, sales-led growth. Most of these, they've got significant overlap, except for maybe product-led growth. What that means is you use your product as a growth vehicle. You use your product to attract people and then provide a good enough experience where they retain over time and they progress through your internal funnel. ChatGPT didn't email you asking you to sign up, right? So like that would be outbound led growth, where I either invest in paid media or do a bunch of emailing and ask people to sign up. Product led growth is basically you discovering the product because you have a need, you have a need that you need to scratch, and then you find our product,
The
right?
product speaks for itself.
Yeah, and then you use the product and you realize, okay, this is actually great. The experience is good. It's meeting all my needs, and then you retain over time, and you go from a free user to a, that's how Claude works, right? We all started using Claude as a free user. It became so good, we started paying $20, and then it's like it wasn't enough. Our use cases expanded with the product. A good product will do that, right? Like you were probably using Claude for very trivial, very simple things when you first started using it. But the product got so good, you started doing new things with it, and now it's the permanent part of the scope of work that you execute every day. So now you need Claude for more things. So you then upgrade to $200, right? That's product-led growth essentially. And then there's sales-led growth where you start selling, basically booking calls, getting on calls with potential buyers, and just start selling, like Wolf of Wall Street. So that's sales-led growth. A developer-led growth is essentially just reaching out to, or like getting in front of individual developers, giving them a good enough experience where they go back to their company and go be like, yo, I found this really awesome tool, we should probably try it out. And then the company adopts your tool. That's kind of what developer-led growth is. It means different things as well, but and then there's content-led growth, right? Let me find a good example for content-led growth. I mean, there's probably a lot of like companies that, Nomad Table.
Yeah.
Right, you know Nomad Table. If you're a solo traveler, you should check out Nomad Table. It's basically an app for solo travelers where you can connect with other solo travelers. It sounds so boring, but it's not. It's awesome. How I found out and how everybody really finds out about this app is through these little skits that they do on Instagram, right? And then you see this, and then that's content-led growth. You discover the product because of content. And it doesn't have to be video too. It could be blogs, right? AEO has changed the game. I would say, I don't have a problem saying this. The single biggest organic distribution vehicle that we have for AgentMail is our content, the written content, because we did this survey recently on our platform where it's a simple survey. Where did you hear about us? The majority heard about us through ChatGPT or Claude. So they asked Claude, okay, how do I give my OpenClaw agent an email? Or like, how do I get my OpenClaw to go and buy stuff on the internet or make an account on Reddit? And then Claude recommends AgentMail. So that's like the single highest leverage distribution lever that we have right now is AEO. That's content. That's content-led growth. So yeah, those are some examples for GTM Motions. Those are types of things you do to meet the growth outcomes, right? It's very important as a startup that you're aligned with what growth means. If the product department has an idea of what growth should be that does not align with the engineering team, your company will probably die a very painful death. Okay? So you should sync up and be like, just come to a decision on what growth means for you. Is it having more signups tomorrow than what we have now, right? There's something called growth infrastructure, right? You need to decide what you're like, okay, so defining your ICP is a part of what I like to call TAM mapping, total addressable market, right? Which is essentially it overlaps with growth and GTM both, but again, like growth is a destination. It's a place where you go, right? How you go there is essentially the GTM motion. But to go there, you need to decide a few things. Decide a few things. Who am I going to approach first? Which part of the cake am I going to go after first? That one of those things is called TAM mapping, which is mapping out your total addressable market. And a part of that exercise is defining your audience, your ideal customer persona, right? I also do think you should be very agile when you're going about this. The reason is when you first define what your ICP is, it's most likely going to be based off of your intuition as to who should use your product, right? Or you look at who are the early adopters and then you try to form an opinion on like, okay, if all of the early adopters of my product are fishermen, I'm probably going to assume that, okay, people that work with water, that's my ICP. But you don't know that, right? That could be because for some reason only people that work with water or like fishermen discovered your product. You don't know that. A good example for this is how Pinterest approached this. Okay, what Pinterest did is when they first made Pinterest, it was essentially a glorified bookmarks folder. The way they described it, it's basically you can take pieces of the internet and pin it and just save it for later. Interesting idea at that time, but they didn't know how to find product market fit. So what they did was they started approaching all sorts of people, teachers, students, founders, engineers, just to see, okay, who's actually going to make use of this. And I think the early Pinterest team, their intuition was to gear this towards students for some reason. If they took that as holy gospel and they made that like if they decided that the students are going to be their ICP, they would have failed. What they found out was when they started reaching out to all these different types of people and letting them use the product, designers were actually the stickiest segment. Designers were using Pinterest as like a mood board basically to just like, for inspiration for different projects. And then they looked into, okay, why are designers using this? It's essentially to use as inspiration, right? So they took that data point, and then that's how they defined the ICP. Who else would like to use Pinterest for this use case, which is for inspiration, these kinds of things, right? So that's how you should do it. That's what we're doing as well. We're trying to reach out to as many different people and many different types of developers to see who ends up actually retaining over time. One thing I can tell you, I can give you a good example. So we reach out to all sorts of startups. And we see a, all sorts of developers working on all sorts of products sign up for AgentMail. And so we haven't decided, or we haven't set boundaries. Okay, AgentMail is for this type of. If you're building an agent that needs infrastructure that needs to act on the internet, AgentMail is for you. We haven't drawn out that boundary yet. One of the reasons is people that are building AI employees, you see a lot of those startups signing up and retaining over time because their agents, it's essential that they need an identity. If you're building an AI coworker or an employee, you need an email address, right? That's one of the first things as a human, when you join a company, the first thing you get is an email address, right? It's the same for agents. So we kind of let the data speak to us and then decide what the ICP is. Yeah. So ICP definition and like what the growth rate should be and what growth means for your company, all of those things should be defined early on, but not as holy gospel. You should try the GTM motion and let the data speak for itself, and then keep those goals agile, at least for the first stage of your company. And once you get to a point where you have enough data, and when I say enough data, if you have like, for us, when we got to a point where we had like 50,000 signups, we had just a little bit of insight into where this could be going. Not enough, still not enough, right? Because our total addressable market is probably 3 million people. We don't know. A lot of people are building agents, and that's only going to go up. And after OpenClaw, anybody could be an agent builder. It's so easy to get an agent now, right? Back in the day, you had to use a framework, you had to do all sorts of things. You had to be very technical to build an agent. Now it's just like you download OpenClaw or Hermes agent on the CLI, and then you have an agent. So now our total addressable market is expanding even rapidly. So we maybe reached out to, we're in front of maybe 5% of that market. That's not enough intuition. So don't be too quick to define these things, I would say. And make sure you track everything. Who's signing up? Who's retaining? What industries are they coming from? What are they using the product for? If you don't have that, just running off of vibes. And that's not a sustainable thing.
You touched base on this in your answer previously, but I wanted to go deep on this. So we talked about different methodologies that we can use, right? Founder-led growth, product-led growth, sales, community, dev. So from your experience at AgentMail, what are the levers that you all used? What worked best? And what worked worse than you expected and you had to kill? If you can talk about it.
It's a good question, man. I think we haven't really relied on community-led growth yet. And that's something that keeps me up at night.
Because that's where your expertise comes in from the previous role.
Kind of, yeah, that's true. I've seen how big community can be. Also, like Hermes Agent. You know Hermes Agent,
Yeah.
right? Low key, I think they might end up being bigger than OpenClaw very soon, because like there's a network effect.
You first heard it here.
Yeah. I think very soon, I think Hermes will overtake OpenClaw, because I see, like if you go, I'm a part of this Discord channel. One guy signed up to Hermes, and he's talking about how great Hermes is, and then another guy signs up, and now they're both talking about how great Hermes is, and then another 10 guys sign up. So you see, it kind of compounds, you know. So I do think community-led growth is very underrated, and I would love to work on that. We actually onboarded somebody to do just this, right? Discord, Reddit, virtual events. Um, so that's something I would say we haven't invested a lot into yet. Founder-led growth is working out great for us. Adi, our founder, he's actually he's offloaded a lot to me just so he can go and sell now. And I think an early stage startup should rely quite a lot on founder-led sales initially, because I don't think you should go to a sales-led motion unless you have a very strong intuition as to how you should sell, what works. If you hire a salesperson and the salesperson has to figure out the playbook from level zero, it's a lot of overhead. And then as a I think the founder should know, okay, these are the things that people resonate towards when I'm pitching. These are the pain points that we're addressing. Once we have that initial playbook, it's so easy to offload it to like a salesperson. So founder-led growth has been amazing for us. Our founders, they all have very good Twitter presence, like X presence, whatever. And their opinions matter, because who else can talk about agents and email, the intersection of agents and email, better than the founders of AgentMail, right? So I would say founder-led growth it's been working out great for us. Content-led growth has been working amazingly for us, because we are literally in the training data for Claude now. If you ask Claude what's the best way to give an email to an agent, they'll say AgentMail, because we wrote a lot of content, blogs, We have been writing a lot of good stuff, not BS, like the loop engineering thing. I know that a lot of people actually read it and they found a lot of value. And then at the end of
Absolutely,
that,
I'm one of them. Yeah.
right, yeah, like at the end you have the Asian Mail link, and then we tie that into Asian Mail and what we do, right? So we got picked up by a lot of LLMs and SEO, like search results. So content has been working amazingly for us. Even YouTube, we have a lot of YouTube channels sending traffic to us, not paid by the way, just like random YouTubers, not random, sorry, don't take offense. Great YouTube creators that's made videos on what Asian Mail does, who mentioned Asian Mail in their videos. So content has been great for us. And in a way, developer-led growth too. We see a lot of people, like we keep track of this. This is one of the most interesting things I worked on. We built this dashboard to identify which companies our users are coming from, signups. And as soon as we see multiple people from the same company signing up, we start to go at them and be like, hey, you guys are using Asian Mail, how can we help? And turn that into a thing. Um, like we see, I don't want to say which company we see, we noticed a lot of people signing up from this company this is a huge company. Think of the biggest tech company you can think of, probably, okay? And we were like, this is interesting. Like signing up from their company email too, right? There's got to be something. So we caught that. We started tracking this for everybody, right? And and then we started going at them, and turns out they were testing us. One person from the company used Asian Mail, and they probably went back and talked to the team about this, and the team started using it, and now there's a high chance that we might get them as a customer. It'll be game changing for us. So that's developer-led growth. So it's been working out for us great as well. Honestly, PLG is our game, bro. When you start using Agent Mail, well, this is going to be a biased take. I think our product is better than anything else that is in the market right now. There's just no way. It's just so good. Because, like, if you are an agent, you need to send email and receive it and remember it. All the other providers out there, don't sue me, are more or less lacking in one department. Either you can send an email but you can't receive it, or even if you receive it, there's no memory or context, you can only refer to a single thread. If you go to Asian Mail and sign up, it's literally Gmail. Everything you can do with Gmail, you can do it with Asian Mail, pretty much, right? So product-led growth has been the single biggest lever, right? And we're trying to kind of refine this as well. We want to invest heavily into product. We want to hire somebody just to look at session replays and how people use Asian Mail and where are they dropping off, when do they stop using Asian Mail, what more features can we add, all of these things. So again, we haven't explored PLG enough in my opinion, but PLG has been working great for us as well. I think if you're a dev tool, PLG should more or less be the name of your game. You should try, because if your product is not strong enough to retain somebody or convert somebody, then your product's not strong enough. Simple.
Talk to me about the stack that you use day to day, and where you use AI and other tools. So talk to me about it.
Yeah, yeah. First of all, I think I think I should say this is very cool. Everybody in our team, we're all technical. We're all coding, which is awesome, man. Like a couple of years ago, if you go to a startup, only the engineers are coding, developing, really building software. Right now, the question is not, are you technical? The question is, how technical are you? Because the barrier to being technical or to ship production level code is very low now, right? I mean, I find myself building dashboards, building websites, and all these different things. So AI really has changed the game in terms of the growth stack, what the growth stack should be, right? So obviously Claude Code, right? That's a no shit answer. But I'll actually give you some specific tools as well. We use Item for our CRM. Item means it's item.app. Very cool CRM. It's an agentic CRM where what that means is Item automatically tracks our signups, enriches, like if you sign up with your personal email, it will enrich the email and tell me who you are, where you're from, what company, what industry, all of that information. And they will store that in the CRM. If I want to have like an automated inbound sequence, I can ask item like literally in the chat, in a chat interface, can you make a 3-step email sequence and send it from Binoy's email to people that meets these criteria? If the person is from a startup that works with agents, send them these 3 emails. You know, I can specify all those things. So it's a very cool CRM. You should check it out. We use Clay for market mapping, which is Clay is like the industry standard for enriching, right? Enriching and data sources. So we use Clay to map our total addressable market. We do it using lookalikes. Like we give Clay some of our customers and ask it to find lookalikes, or just vague instructions, right? Startups or companies that are building agents, and Clay just finds us thousands and thousands of leads. And we also use Orange Slice, which is a YC company that's kind of competing with Clay. We use both. Very awesome tools. What else do I use? We use PostHog for product data. PostHog is basically when we plug PostHog into our product, they track usage for every single user. How long were you active for? When did you last sign up? What did you do with it? What is your usage dwindling, or is it upgrading? All of those different things, right? Product. We use that as like the data source for our product stuff. Obviously, we use Hermes and OpenClaw for a lot of internal stuff. There's almost nothing we haven't automated in our business up to some extent. Every single thing, including designing, right? Um, I think that's pretty much it.
All right. So, an unhinged question, and I think this is in everyone's mind right now. And there's no other person that I could ask this better than you, who's in an AI startup, right? So, is AI a bubble?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, it has to be. So if you look at this from a financial perspective, it has to be a bubble. What makes a bubble a bubble? Because when the output doesn't measure up to the input, right? Is AI generating enough in revenue or profit, and does that match up with the investments? Probably not. It won't be for a while, right? But here's the thing: Jeff Bezos had a good answer for this. I think it was Jeff Bezos. Yeah, he has to be. When he was asked the same question, he had a very interesting answer to this. There are good bubbles and bad bubbles. An example for a good bubble would be the 90s dot-com crash. Devastating for a lot of people. People lost a lot of money. A very good example of corporate greed, where people optimize for the short term and for short term profits, and how that messes up everything. But the internet as we know it today was formed because of that short period of hyper innovation. The payment infrastructure, the way we browse the web, all of these things exist today because of that period of innovation. The dot com, right? The bubble, the websites, the e commerce industry. Everything kind of came off of the tail end of that bubble, right? So, would you say there was a net positive to the society? Yeah, definitely, right? And then there's a real estate bubble. No net positive. Millions of people lost money. A lot of people lost jobs. They lost retirement savings. The pinnacle of corporate greed and irresponsible behavior overall. And there was little. I mean, if you've seen the movie The Big Short, you would know that's a bad bubble. There's no net positive to the society. There's just greed, right? There's no net positive. It's a bad bubble. So Jeff Bezos thinks that AI is a good bubble where the results will outweigh the negatives. Is that true? I hope so. I'm an optimist, right? If you read Peter Thiel's Zero to One, it's a good concept, right? You can choose to be an optimist about this, an optimist and positivist about this, because you have to believe that the tech that's going to be around in the next decade is going to be life changing. I mean, Adam, my mentor, had a good answer to this as well. Like, what's the bottleneck for most problems we have today? It's intelligence, right? Why do we not have a cure for cancer? It's intelligence. We don't have that intelligence. And so, AI could potentially be the breaker of that bottleneck. So, I don't know if that's going to be true or not, but this is literally the next industrial revolution happening in real time. So yeah, we have to make sure. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of ethics involved here as well. I do believe that, but I do believe that this will be a good bubble. I hope I'm not wrong. I just think that as an employee or as somebody that's in the workforce now, you need to do things that makes you indispensable. That's what we should talk about. How do you make yourself indispensable or like essential to a company? I think it's cross-domain expertise. If you're an engineer, your worth is significantly low now than what it was a few years back. If you're a junior developer, your value is very low now. But if you're an engineer that can also sell, you're one of one, man. You're winning the lottery. If you're an engineer that's also a design expert or UI expert, you're winning. Like right now, like, at AgentMail, we want to like expand our growth department because we want to go into this phase of rapid growth. But I can't do it myself. Adi and I can't do it myself. We also have a third person, Sam. We can't. It's just three people. We can't do it ourselves. We need expertise. But what we realize is we want our next hire to be a technical growth person,
Interesting.
a GTME, a go-to-market engineer. I mean, like if we put out a job post for a growth or a GTM role, we would get flooded with applications. But the GTME role, they're very rare because it's cross-functional expertise, right? I think that's the number one thing you can do to make yourself indispensable, right? And just make peace with the fact that if you're not at the top of your game, the chances that you're going to be replaced or you're going to be let go, it's pretty high. It's a business. It's nothing personal, right? You can decide to cry about it, or complain about it on Twitter and say, "Oh, why are all these big companies laying off people?" It's not going to do much for you. You can't change that. What you can change is how essential you become to the company, or how attractive you are to a prospective employer, right? So I think that's cross-functional expertise. I think would be the number one leverage right now. Number two is build. Right now, there's nothing stopping you from building. Build cool shit. Show off your expertise. Show people, okay, you can just build cool things now. Solve the problem you're solving at work through software, and that's make that like your number one selling point.
All right. Pretty good. All right. I think we have come to the end.
Yeah, man, this was a nice chat. Look, if you disagree with any of the things that we talked about, we're not experts. Probably yapped a lot today. Probably a lot of bullshit. Hopefully not. But if you feel like, if you disagree with any of these things, please DM. I love talking to people and, listening to things from other people's perspectives. That's such a clutch way to grow, man.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks
Of
for
course,
making
man.
the time.
All right, man.